sucks.
Yeah, it does.
It's kind of always been that way.
It's always been that way. So we got that to talk about. We're going to talk a little MLS playoffs. The final is today.
Right.
Seattle versus Toronto.
A big...
Yeah. So let's get into the Loons front office shakeup. They came out with we knew there was a shakeup happening, but now they officially came out and said Manny is going to be more of the young kids academy type of guy. He's going to focus on that.
Yeah, and does anyone have his official title? They released it, and I forgot what it was.
I think his title is going to be going forward is going to be called the Chief Soccer Officer.
Yes.
So and I was like, what the hell is it's a CSO?
CSO, and I think it's one of those things, and a lot of people run into this. It's call them what you want. It's just a title. I don't think you can read into that specific name or title too much.
Yeah,
they shifted the front office around a little bit, and we could talk about maybe why we think they did that. I guess I could go first. I look at this as kind of a reward for Heath, in my opinion.
Sure.
I think he was successful in this 3-year plan. Well, obviously it was. The goal was to make the playoffs by the third season. They did that, and I think ownership is in a way rewarding Heath because of that.
Right.
And Watson as well, because Watson moved up into he's technical director now.
Yeah, and considering he's kind of like stumbled up the ladder.
Yeah,
I don't know. I feel like I stole it from somebody on Twitter. It's interesting because he's kind of just moved up the chain in Major League Soccer, and
but obviously Heath trusts him.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's why he has this position now. Is I think him and Heath are going to kind of like be the tag team of kind of pretty much the starting lineup and all the kind of the first team.
And I think it's interesting because I think it was Jeff Ruder's article that said, as technical director, he's actually going to report to Heath.
Yeah.
Which is weird to me. I feel like they should be kind of parallel, but autonomous, not really the same.
I get the feeling, I said this on text, I get the feeling that Manny's position, yes, that's the position title, that he's the head guy.
Right.
But he's not really the head guy when it comes to the first team anymore.
Well, I'd like to think that Manny is slowly being phased out.
Yeah, exactly.
I've always, everybody who listens to us since the beginning knows that I've railed on Manny.
We've all railed on Manny. Yeah.
So I was ecstatic when I saw that he was being shifted because, to me, as Dave said, it looks like it's Adrian apparently has done better at recognizing talent, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
And I've always kind of argued that there's a chance that a lot of the first couple years had nothing to do with Adrian.
Yeah.
And John's trying to suggest that he also said that.
Yeah.
Which he has. I've heard him say that.
And just to clean, so we will have to get into Heath a little bit more, and as far as what his new roles and duties would do. But I also should mention that head athletic trainer Stacey Harden is actually now going to be named the
that's really cool.
Senior Director of Player Health and Performance.
So we won't see her on the field anymore?
I think she is still.
Yeah,
I think it says that that's still her.
Yeah. I think she's getting a bump. I would only assume a bump in pay, but certainly a bigger title, bigger responsibilities. So obviously she's been with the club all 3 years now. So that's nice to see. But specifically with Heath, he, like you kind of brought this up. He's going to have more involvement with kind of the first team roster and maybe even obviously what players are on that roster and maybe where they look.
And signing. Watson is going to be the contract negotiator now.
Right.
So I think the signing, and what I see is the Chacon signing, I think that was pretty much all Heath and Watson.
Well, to me, I think, and obviously we have no idea, but, and in fact, Jeff Ruder told me directly that it's not this black and white. Yeah. But to me, I'm going to read into this and say 2019 was Adrian Heath's doing.
Yeah.
Because why else would you give him more more responsibility if he didn't create 2019.
He did, and we saw a big difference between the signings the last 2 years up to this year. All of a sudden, we went out and got, and we were all told, like, well, now we're at the point where we can do this. And I'm going, I think Manny was kind of plodding along,
and you know, I've said this in the past, not too recently, but that I feel like Manny is such a piece of Minnesota soccer.
Yeah.
That it was obvious he was going to be a part of this.
Yes, of course.
It's obvious that he's going to maintain a part of this.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he had too much of a part of this.
Well, look at some of the signings that sucked. Gomez, Pangop.
Well, I mean, think about Demidov.
Yeah, Demidov.
I mean, or think about keeping Davis and I mean, his name's already the two fullbacks, Davis and
yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
and I mean, it's like those decisions going into our first season.
Yeah,
you know, Heath was hired in November. Well, hired in November, official in December, I think it was. Most of those decisions, I guarantee, were in the making prior to Heath's hiring. A lot of people say, well, you know, Adrian said, you know, had a lot of praise for Demidov. Well, yeah, who's paying his, who's giving him his paycheck? Of course he's going to have praise for whoever.
What would he say, like, I hate the guy?
Right, yeah.
I mean, come on.
So, I mean, it's just like when you announce players in December and you announce your manager either end of November, mid-November, whatever it was, there's a pretty good chance that those contract negotiations happened before the manager ever came up.
Yeah.
And because that's the nature of how long it takes to do stuff.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of those bad signings, I guarantee you Francisco Calvo was a Manny signing. I just know it. In my heart, my soul, I just blame him for that.
And the trade was a Heath trade.
And the Ramirez trade?
No, the Calvo trade.
Yeah. And I think the Ramirez trade was
a Heath
possibly
trade,
a Legos trade.
You think? I mean, because I was just wondering if maybe that this transformation that we're seeing officially now on paper, I wonder if this hadn't started earlier, like with, say, Christian Ramirez and certain things
It's
like
possible.
That.
I mean, because you can make arguments either way. I wouldn't say that the problem with the Ramirez trade is that his replacement didn't really work out. And I assume, and this maybe we can talk about this a little bit later on, is I don't know that his replacement is going to be here next year. So it's hard to say, you know, who pushed that trade. Like, did Adrian say, well, I don't want this type of player?
Yeah. But
then maybe Manny tried to find a new player, and that was Rodriguez, and the concept was good. It just didn't work, you know. And that's kind of where I think Jeff is coming in with. It's not that black and white. But I think this shift is damning to Manny.
Oh, of course it is.
And it's at least slight praise, if not significant praise, to Adrian.
But now Heath's more on the line this next year.
Oh yeah,
and the following year, because if we don't do well next year, then it's all on Heath.
That's right.
And I feel like he's got 1 year extension, didn't he? That's it.
Yeah.
So
now it's all on him.
It's a do or die.
They're saying, look, you're going to get all this responsibility, but guess what's going to happen?
Mm-hmm. And is Manny here just because the top owes it to the family to keep him around?
Of course
it's
possible. If it wasn't for Daddy, where would soccer be in the same?
I mean,
if it wasn't for the Legos family, there would not be soccer.
Exactly.
I fully is.
So is this a year-by-year contract then now with Heath?
I don't think so.
I would think.
Is it another 3 more year plan because he has the control now?
Well,
you can't say,
actually, not to keep praising Jeff Reuter on his reporting, but he even mentioned he wrote a piece just this week about as one 3-year plan ends, another begins.
Of course.
Which I completely agree.
Well,
with.
absolutely. I brought this up, last time, but it's important. Obviously this isn't a one and done type situation. This is MLS. They still have a brand new stadium in Allianz that's going to be there for years to come. They want to be able to sustain the success that they enjoyed this season into year after year after year.
Exactly.
And what I specifically brought up last time was Seattle. They have made the playoffs every single year of their existence, at least the last 10. Of course, that's what they're shooting for, and it's going to take Heath, and it's going to take the investment of ownership all the way down. And one other thing we should mention is and this was brought up, but as far as the big decisions, the big signings, it's not going to be Heath's only. It's not going to be just Heath making these decisions. It's going to be, Chris Wright's going to be involved. Ownership's going to be involved. You still have that kind of triumvirate, the circle of trust, whatever you want to call it.
Heath has more of an opportunity to go out and find players.
Well, yeah, and I think this is going to be. We kind of alluded to it. It's going to be. He has 1 year.
Yeah.
If he screws up, the guillotine falls.
Yeah.
And if he works out, then I bet you're going to see a 3-year extension.
Yeah.
The anti-Adrian fans are going to be busting their chops if this goes.
Well, of course. They already are.
I mean, even at
they
the
are
playoff
because
game,
the rumors that have been flying.
Even at the playoff game, us three were just looking at the lineup and said, "What the heck?"
Yeah.
I mean, he made some decisions during the season that were like, "Is it him? Is it not him?" Apparently.
Well, and the thing is with Adrian Heath, he very clearly wants players who are going to play. He doesn't want to deal with attitudes.
Nope.
He doesn't want to deal with, that, I guess it's an attitude, that me personality.
That's right.
And he'll make you pay.
That's right.
If he thinks that you're doing that. Mm-hmm. And he did it with Calvo.
Yeah.
And he
did it with
too. Possibly Darwin Quintero.
Twice with Darwin.
So that's actually a good segue.
The U.S. Open Cup final.
So let's talk about DQ a little bit, because his situation is fluid right now. We're seeing rumors upon rumors of trades to here and trades to there, and
the team said nothing, but you can't look at what Darwin has said on social media in the last week and a half and not say he's obviously leaving.
He's leaving,
because you don't post a video of your goals from the entire time you've been here.
I'm looking at it right now.
And say thank you.
He says gracias, thank you in Spanish. Of course, everybody knows that. But it's every single one of his goals with Minnesota.
Yeah.
I kind of was, in a jokingly fashion, I kind of made the quip maybe he's just trying to, remind the front office how good he is, and hey,
that's possible.
Pick up my option. I want to be here in Minnesota. Now, I don't necessarily think that's the case. But
I'm sorry. $1.6 million?
Well, I believe his option is $2 million.
Oh, it's $2 million?
Yeah,
because he was on the books this year close to that. Or just over that.
And I would never even consider paying him $2 million.
And the thing is, I don't think Heath really trusts him anyways.
And he shouldn't.
And again, I said this before. DQ was great last year when he was the star guy and he could win games for you.
Right.
This year, we had so many other options around him that we didn't need him anymore, and I think he pouted about that.
Yeah, and I think we've discussed this in episodes past about how I've always felt that he's that guy that needs to be the number one.
Yeah.
And as we brought in new players, he wasn't the number one. He's still incredibly important.
Yep.
But he needed to learn how to share the spotlight, and that's not him.
Yeah, and I think the problem is, I don't think we can sit here and say, at least myself as a fan, I would, if it was up to me and it's not my money to spend, I would love to see Darwin back.
Sure.
Maybe even if it's a lesser role, but that's something
not
he would
that.
never accept.
He's
that
not going to accept
because
that.
I have made the case in both the U.S. Open Cup final and the playoff game against the Galaxy at Allianz. That he came in as a substitute in both of those games and made an impact on those games.
He did.
Right.
But he's not going to accept a half role going forward.
No way.
He'll go elsewhere.
And he won't accept a half role, and a half role would mean less salary, and he's not going to take that.
Right.
Is he worth $2 million somewhere else?
No.
Okay, so
I mean,
and that's the thing. It's as Tony alluded to the rumors of the trades. We've heard trade rumors to Houston. We've heard trade rumors to Orlando now.
Yep.
Neither of those teams are going to pay a guy $2 million.
No.
I really don't.
Of course not.
Not a 32-year-old who may not be starting caliber.
It's funny you bring up the trade rumor thing, because there was a Twitter person, I'm not going to name the Twitter person, but he had kind of an interaction with Jeff Reuter, because he said, this Twitter person said, DQ's being traded to Houston.